Materials. I have included the full list of materials in the description. Let's glue. Before gluing the tiles, we need to check if our substrate is completely clean and dry, and assess whether it needs to be sealed. In this case, it's plastic, a non-porous material, so it doesn't need sealing. If you are working with wood, like this MDF, you must seal it with diluted glue. If it's varnished and the varnish is deteriorated, you need to sand it down completely and reseal with diluted glue. We are all set to start gluing. If it were a more complex design, you might want to transfer the design or drawing some lines to guide you while gluing. In my case, it's a simple design that fits perfectly in the space, so I don't need to. I have these slightly smaller pieces for the corners because I just measured and I don't want them to be too tight. It's important at this stage to leave space between the pieces for the grout, around 2 to 4 millimeters, no more than that, to prevent the grout from cracking. We're going to apply a generous amount, but avoid having it overflow. It's a simple pattern. I'll just keep alternating the colors. This adhesive becomes transparent when it dries. A project without tools is very practical for beginners who want to get a feel for mosaics and see if it's for them, without having to invest much in tools or materials. In fact, you can buy sheets of mixed colored glass tiles. So with just one sheet, you get 3 or 4 colors, which is all you need for a project like this. Distribute them evenly. I'm going to glue the entire front. Then leave it to dry for a few hours before starting on the sides. This type of adhesive, just like PVA glue, gives you some time to reposition the pieces before it dries. It's also important to note that if any pieces get adhesive on top, it's not a problem because it's water soluble. When you clean the grout, it will clean off as well. That's not the case with silicone. I let it dry for a few hours. It doesn't need to be completely dry, but we need to make sure the pieces won't shift due to gravity when we change positions. I'm going to start attaching the tiles to the sides. You should work on one side at a time and wait 1 or 2 hours before turning it over to work on the next side. I'm going to leave the corners slightly past the edge to avoid having too much space for the grout. And the same goes for this area, because otherwise it will have too much grout, and I personally don't like. Grouting. I let it dry overnight. I'm going to cover the areas I don't want to stain with masking tape. Here I have an amount of grout powder that I estimated for this project, considering it's small, but I also don't want to run out because then I'd have to prepare more in the middle of the process. I want a dark color. I'll use black grout mixed with brown and black acrylic paint to achieve a stronger color. I'll also add a bit of PVA glue to give it a more compact appearance when it dries. Mix with water until a peanut butter-like consistency. Add the water gradually because the consistency can change in 1 second. Always use gloves when grouting and a mask when mixing the powder, as this is a super toxic substance. Let's grout. In these smaller projects, I like to do it with my hands. You need to apply a generous amount and try to fill all the gaps between the tiles. I like to give a nice finish on the back. This part generally isn't visible, but I think it makes a difference for a well-finished project. We remove the excess so that the final cleanup is easier. If a piece comes loose during grouting, don't panic. Just glue it back and try to grout that area more carefully to give it time to adhere properly. Remove the excess, checking that there are no gaps without grout. This is the messiest part of the process, but you get the hang of it, and it becomes easier over time. It's important to keep everything organized so you can easily access and use it. This is ready. I'll let it dry a bit before cleaning. You can notice a change in texture on the tiles. Dampen a sponge, squeeze it out well, and gently clean over the tiles to remove the excess and fill in any gaps that weren't properly covered. Smooth the corners and check that they are well covered. Now I have to wait again to let it dry before the final cleaning. You can see how it has dried on the tiles. This is the moment to clean. I didn't throw away my leftover grout because you might notice some areas that need a bit more. It's always good to have grout on hand. In the end, dispose everything in the trash, ideally. Don't pour this cement down the sink, as it can clog your pipes. Afterward, rinse the bowl and dispose of the water with the remnants in the toilets. The frame is ready. I removed the masking tape and now I'm going to let it dry completely. If you liked this video, subscribe to learn about other mosaic techniques in a simple and affordable way.